What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus. My name is Jim, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Luke and Kyle. And today we continue our coverage of Apple TV Plus's Foundation Season 3. Today we are covering Season 3, Episode 6, titled The Shape of Time. I'm back. I am back. I missed you 2 weeks. I had a blast watching all 3 episodes at one time. I literally was able to binge all 3. Hopefully they don't blend together for me during this podcast, but I'm sure you guys killed it while I was gone. And I'm excited to talk to you about these episodes because this season just keeps getting better and better.
I unfortunately think we want to throw it right back to you and let you start here to give you a chance to say any high-level comments for the 2 episodes you missed, plus lead us into this one without being able to say you agree or disagree. So we'll agree or disagree with you.
This is tough. There was so much that happened in the last 3 episodes, specifically after I left. We always talk about this with Foundation, whether it's episode to episode, season to season, things change wildly. And this is what happened while I was gone. We had the Cleonic Empire lose 2 Cleons here, and these 2 storylines were phenomenal, and it was something that we've been asking for since season 1 and season 2. I know your boy Day, Kyle, you're proud of him. He didn't have a great episode this episode because Song wasn't living the dream with him, but he was a little ruthless to his homie. You know, it wasn't the best look, but at the same time, he got out. And there's not many Cleons that have been able to get out. And Dawn needed Gail to do it. Day did it pretty much by himself. So these 2 storylines were so interesting. The Cleonic Dynasty storylines are always the most interesting for this TV show. But I will also say, especially with this episode, the Mule is leaving his mark big time. And we were talking about this before I left for my trip. I was talking about, when is he going to get there, meaning the actor? When is he going to surpass his Game of Thrones Greyjoy character? I think I'm good. I see it just because it's iconic. I still see Euron Greyjoy, but he's there. He's surpassed it. He's the Mule, and I'm fully in. Whatever. Let's just get started. Stop putting me on the spot. I'm not enjoying being put on the spot, Luke.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Kyle, you have any comments before we jump in?
Yeah, I think that, Luke, the end of last podcast episode, we were just going through all of the possible ways that this Dem and Gail encounter could go. Probably surpassed my wildest dreams of how it went. I mean, it was just because it was both in line with the characters, and we get so much information, and it sets us up for so much like cool stuff of what's going to branch out of this. You know, there's still questions, but they're questions that are fun to think about. And for me, that was like the main part of this episode. Everything else, as crazy as it sounds, because it's literally the third crisis, the vaults opening, like everything else felt so secondary to anything that was happening with Gail and Demerzel. But I mean, also the other stuff, like, it'll be interesting to talk about. It kind of like, part of me feels like it was almost like, yeah, this happened, and we're going to move on. I mean, the third crisis, I think it's over. Is that safe to say?
The third crisis was supposed to be the traitor rebellion, and now the Harry literally was like, "Oh shit, who's the Mule?" And he just sandbagged the entire Foundation. That was crazy. I think that, I mean, we have confirmation from this episode that the Mule and Gail are anomalies. Harry had no idea who the Mule was. He was not expecting the Mule at all. I think that this third crisis, like you said, Kyle, that was it. It's over. But we're getting sliced right down the middle here with this anomaly, and that's the Mule. And now, we'll talk about it. 4 months from now, we have the Mule and the black hole bomb.
Definitely. There's no way that that's not what we were getting at, but we'll get there when we get there. Okay, that's a good cue up. Let's just start with the Gail and Demerzel storyline. It's really one long conversation split up into 3 scenes. I'll do my best to give us some natural parting spots to really jump in, but we could kind of talk about it all because the beginning of it is just an info share between both of them. They both tell each other a bunch of things And it's actually kind of telling of what each other didn't know. And maybe we knew this, but Gail never knew that Demerzel was a robot until this moment. And that's pretty,
Wild.
revealing. I didn't know that that was a thing. Maybe Harry didn't think it was a benefit because it was kind of cool. We actually got two separate clips back to the pilot of season
Yep.
1, which is awesome. I love when they do that. And yeah, like Gail confirms here that Harry knew she was the robot, or maybe Demerzel confirmed that Harry knew all the way back then. But there's just so much to talk about with when they're catching each other up. Like, first things first, Kyle, we did say that there's a huge chance that Demerzel's coding should just say snap Gail's neck. And she almost does that. She choke slams her right against the wall. That's freaking awesome. I love all that. But she talks her down a tiny bit. And some of the things I wrote down that is this info share that I'm hinting at. Maybe you guys picked up something else or you want to talk about something here, but I'll just read what I have written down. The important piece here was that Harry needed more data, and the way that he could add more data to the psychohistory model was essentially using Demerzel's memories, because that's all it was. It was expanding out the models, getting more variables, having a more accurate prediction. We could talk about the implications of that, but we have the idea that Gail tells Demerzel about the second foundation. That seems to be news. There's the shadows that Demerzel wasn't aware of, which were these outliers. And it could be the second. It's hinted at that it is the second foundation. So that's cool that she learns about all that. The Mentalics and their abilities get discussed here, as well as Gail confirming that we've seen her be overpowered this season, but the Mule is just way beyond her ability. She even says she doesn't have the ability to really compulse people. We've been using the word compulse for that ability. So that's something that gets talked about here. You said it already, Jimmy. The Mule and Gail are considered outliers, similar to Sal. And then the last thing I wrote down, we can kind of just talk about it, is the way that they wrapped in the spacers was pretty cool. And then this was also a flashback to the pilot when Gail was waking up during the jump, which is that it's kind of interstellar-ish, that time isn't linear. They see time as a shape, and that's where the name of the episode gets its name. So all of this gets talked about before we even get to the vision that Demerzel gets to see through Gail's eyes, which is crazy in its own right. So I'll pass it to you guys if you have anything of just that initial info share where they're getting on the same page, and it kind of allows Demerzel to let Gail live in the end because they do all this talking.
Do we have anything? I mean, we have everything. That was fucking.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more with the visions that I really want to talk about, is why I said it like that.
And thank you so much for listening.
I mean, I almost stood up and applauded when Demerzel drops that her memories were used to complete the data set. And I mean, there's so many scenes almost that makes me think of that too. I mean, especially when we get the flashback Harry episode last season, when he's talking about how he was so reluctant to move to Trantor. He knew that the Empire was going to try to stifle the research. I mean, that's a big reason why his wife ends up dying and he turned into this person that he is. But it also seems like in reality, it was the key, or one of the keys, to actually create psychohistory and create the foundation, just create this whole mechanism that can battle against the decline of humanity. And it was just so crazy. But it's also one of those great things in Foundation of where it's a reveal that I didn't see coming, but once it's revealed, it makes so much sense. You know, when we've talked a lot this season of, man, Demerzel, and especially last season too, when we knew that Harry gave her the prime radiant of, she seems like she's a robot, like the logic, the math, like it all has to appeal to her. And little did we know, it goes beyond just accepting the radiant and being like, oh, this is a great tool. She literally helped create psychohistory and the radiant. And I just freaking blew my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle, 100%. I was clapping when we found out about Demerzel. Broken record here. We all love Demerzel. She's the best. I was talking in the intro about how the Cleon storyline is always the best, and a lot of that is because of Demerzel. Something very important that we found out as well is that it does seem like the mentalic powers will not work on Demerzel because she's a robot. We were wondering if the Mule would work on her, and we talked about that way back in episodes 1, 2, 3. That's the confirmation we need. I just think it's absolutely wild that Gail didn't know she was a robot.
Mhm.
Demerzel herself says that Harry, from the moment he saw her, she doesn't know why and she doesn't know how, but he knew she was a robot from the moment he saw her. I don't know why Gail doesn't ascertain it the same as Harry. I know they're similar, kind of equals, but Harry should have told her. And we all know the deal. Harry, it's a need to know basis.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's pretty important to tell Gail. But at the same time, it is weird. Like, of all the things we talked about with Demerzel, with the rumors and the theories and what people thought about why she continues to live with the Cleons and she being ageless, and a lot of people probably just assuming she's a clone, it just seems a little like amateur for Gail to not question as strongly as we are. Like, so what is Demerzel's deal? Is she a clone? Like, for her to not have confirmation of that is a little weird to me.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't
Maybe a
disagree.
question. Well, I was gonna say that maybe she hasn't really been in and around Trantor, so theoretically, does she even know that Demerzel's still alive? She would know her from when she was alive in her, let's say, quote unquote, normal life, but how
Well,
much? But when she has agents on
from
Trantor, so she
talking to
would technically know.
Dawn, yeah, from talking to Dawn, she knows the
Yeah.
relationship recently and everything like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's obviously not seeing her in person as much as Harry did, and that's
Yeah.
to your point.
I mean, they've also, I feel like, given this idea, and this could just be another subtle way to talk about it, in that Gail and Harry just aren't actually the same. I mean, you might be able to measure their intellect on a similar scale, but them as people are very different.
But
Yeah,
what is the advantage of having her know anyway? It's not like maybe that's just how Harry saw it. Like there is no difference, and she had bigger things to worry about, like setting up the second foundation. So in his head, Gail was supposed to die on the first foundation, generation one. So what is the benefit? Maybe, and by the time that it
Mm,
matters, it's we're here, right? Like, and it still kind of doesn't really matter, I guess, outside of the revelation about the prime radiant and like the origin of psychohistory and all that. So now is the time that it naturally came up. And yeah, they're just two
yeah.
characters that never really interacted.
Naturally came up by Gail shooting her in the face and then getting choke slammed as a result. But
Well,
no,
it
but
was
seriously,
gonna
Luke,
happen.
you made a really good point, because Harry expected Gail not to survive, and once she did end up surviving at that point, there was more pressing things to deal with,
Mhm.
like figuring out how it makes sense to keep her in the trajectory and the formula for, psychohistory as an anomaly. So yeah, I mean I can buy that. I just did think it was a little weird because I just assumed she knew.
Yeah, me
I
too.
do
Like I just
wonder.
didn't think it was a topic that needed to be brought up.
I do wonder what Harry's maybe long-term plan was about Demerzel, because she mentions how kind of the short-term goals aligned, and that's where it kind of formed that strange bedfellows alliance for this
Right.
situation. But what was kind of the long-term plan with her? She's such a formidable aspect of the galactic empire. And I guess maybe from Harry's perspective too, and I guess from psychohistory's perspective, it doesn't really matter if it is the empire that is continuing humanity. I think from Harry's perspective, Foundation was always going to be better served or better positioned to bring humanity through the Dark Ages. But if it happens to be Empire that doesn't end up falling, and the big reason of that being Demerzel, then like that technically works as
Well,
well.
Yeah.
you know what it could be is that from pilot episode 1, Harry said there's nothing that can happen to prevent Empire from falling. So with
Mm.
that mindset, why not arm and prepare Demerzel as best as possible? Because on the other side of the Empire falling, if she survives, all she's going to do is be an asset.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about for a very long time that there's a possibility that he had the hope that her X's and O's are football, baby. We're talking about football again and love. They're ones and zeros, and everything about the logic would lean her more towards Foundation. I don't know if how in depth he got and know about her need, her actual what's it called? not
Her
protocols.
directive.
Directive,
Yeah,
yeah.
her directive to follow Empire. So maybe he was hoping that her logic would win over eventually. And something that happened in the prior episodes that I didn't get to talk to you guys about is when she's talking and spilling her guts, talking about how, um, basically giving us the info dump through her conversation with. Do we have the name of that girl that she talks to, that woman that she talks to?
I mean, we do, but
The
I don't think
Zephyr?
we have it on hand.
Yeah,
Just the
yeah,
Zephyr.
the Zephyr. So that scene was awesome because the Zephyr is saying to her, like, it seems like you have been reincarnated multiple times. So if the Empire does so happen to fall and you did your best to make it not fall, maybe you'll be reincarnated again
Mhm.
and you'll be free of this directive. And Demerzel freaks out in a very, very badass moment. And that's just the question we've had for 3 seasons now. What would happen to Demerzel if the Empire just so happens to fall? And, our hope is obviously that she would be free finally to make her own decisions. And everything about this scene right here, these scenes right here, makes you wonder and makes you think even more about her directive versus what she actually wants or what she can actually do. And you talked about it. She was probably fighting the urge, the major, major urge to snap Gail's neck. And then she needed
Mhm.
to give Gail more time to give her a reason for her directive to allow her to at least live.
God, that is so the dream, is having Demerzel be a free agent to do whatever she wants, and she'll
Yeah.
just be a wild card out there. And I think that could be Harry's plan, and hoping that it works. But also after this episode, you got to also realize that not everything's going to go according to Harry's plan because of the outliers. So just her interacting with an outlier is an outlier moment that's going to have
Yeah.
some butterfly effect, which is going to be down the line. So let's get there, because after this initial confrontation is when Demerzel decides, I need to see what you saw. And I just love the science behind the idea that she can just put some of her robot magic and just read her neural like synapses going off and actually being able to picture it, because it's technically electricity going on in your brain. So why
Yeah.
not, if she's advanced enough to be able to do that? And this might be the coolest looking thing that this episode did, was how that looked when it started invading her face and you got to see like the orange glow of the technology working. I thought it looked amazing. But we have the two scenes here, and one of them being the recreation of what we've seen multiple times at this point, and that's flashing back to the Mule versus Gail, where it should have been Sal dying next to her. And I'm so freaking upset about the reveal here that it was Trantor, because I was so ready to come on here and be like, that was Trantor, like 1,000%, if we didn't already talk about it. And then that gets talked about right away, of course. But yeah, I guess it's because they zoomed out more and you got to see some of the buildings, coupled with the fact that it was only something that you can really catch because of the previous couple of episodes with Day going down into the lower levels, because we never saw Trantor looking like that until this season. So it all kind of makes sense with the story and how it was shown and when it was shown. But she gets to see that, and nothing else is really new there besides Demerzel's reaction. And then of course we can talk about the second vision, which is way more important, about seeing the darkness and all the implications of that. Because I feel like I have a million things to say. It literally turns Demerzel into a temporary EMP, which was one of the coolest things ever, because she freaked out at the idea of just like being absorbed by a black hole. And that's what you were hinting at earlier, I think, Jimmy, where how is that
Yeah.
not the black hole gun right there? Like that has to
Yeah.
play a part into this. And maybe we are already into fourth crisis territory.
It was the coolest thing ever, having Demerzel just take the place of Gale and be able to just look around in her, not memory, but her future vision. And she sees who the Mule is. I would have liked to see Sal laying there, but they didn't do
Mhm.
that. But we were able to zoom out and like you said, Luke, yes, it was Trantor until she told us. And I thought there was a chance. I was hoping that the Mule was going to become sentient in the vision and see Demerzel, but
Mhm.
you had to have Demerzel be able to see the verbatim vision in order for this to continue on with these scenes. So yeah, I thought it was really, really cool, and I agree with you 100%. The way that they went about it, and even the fact that she explains why she's able to do it and how she had to technically torture humans back in the day, and um And the fact that she tells Gail like it's gonna suck, it's gonna hurt
Mhm.
really badly, and then Gail lets her know like you need to give me the sensation of drowning, and I have to be close to death to see this vision, and she's like, that's not gonna be a problem. I was
Yeah,
like,
So
damn,
good.
Demerzel, damn,
yeah.
Demerzel.
So
Mhm.
good. She was ice cold in all of these interactions. It was so good. Even at the start when she's talking about the Dawn stuff,
Yeah,
and Gail's like, you could just decant another one, and she starts freaking out. And I was like,
yep,
I think, feels more imposing than the Mule to me, to be quite honest. The Mule
dude,
still has
yeah,
like that goofy edge at
yeah,
times. And Demerzel is just like, again, like the Darth Vader boarding the ship, like, oh my
Mhm.
God, like it's literally
Yep.
Demerzel. When she says earlier, when Gail's like, when they're talking about Harry, and Gail's like, he was afraid of you, and Demerzel just goes, are you? It was just like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I am. Gail just starts
dude.
blasting.
The actress is phenomenal in all aspects of acting, whether she has to show the emotions of her rage and her anger like she did when she started hearing about Dawn and Gail saying she didn't give a shit about Dawn. She says, I freaking raised him, I saw his first steps. The rage there, the emotions that she's had throughout the seasons when she's sad for these Cleons, whether it's when they die or when they're having an emotional moment, just every single emotion that she has to show. And then there's moments of the lack of emotion when she literally is just standing there with no emotion at all because technically she's a robot. There's just multiple things that she does. And this actress, I've never seen her in anything else. And I really hope she just gets cast in anything she wants from now on.
If the ending of this show is humanity dies and it's just Demerzel, I'm in. I don't even care. I'm
Yeah.
in. That
And,
would be
and,
such a good ending.
and I know what you're saying, Kyle, because like, how is she not basically immortal? I mean, we talked about this before too. This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I feel like she also should be able to change her face. We've seen her rip her
Mhm.
face off when she was talking to the Zephyr. We've seen her get shot in the face and repair it. I I hope that they're only not doing it because it's kind of like a broken thing to be able to have her
Yeah.
change her face like a faceless man. Um, but I feel like she should be able to, and she probably can, and it doesn't need to be part of the storyline, but it just seems that way. But yeah, she is very imposing, and if she ever becomes the straight up villain, yeah, she's a big dog. She's
Game
very,
over.
very scary. Yeah, it's game over.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So with
Um,
this
okay, sorry.
vision, I'm kind of curious because last episode, Luke and I, when we talked about Gail's plan being, we're going to try to corner the Mule on Trantor. We're going to use the might of the Foundation and secretly Second Foundation being able to take over every other planet to kind of just siege him, starve him out, strangle him. We get the confirmation here that the vision is taking place on Trantor. I think it's easy for us to assume that maybe the plan is working. Maybe the plan
Mhm.
is now in collaboration with Empire. Well, I mean, we're going to talk about it later on, but like Demerzel says, the Mule has the Whisper ships. He could end up at Trantor at any moment, but is it even possible that it's the opposite? Is it the Mule attacking Trantor and we just happen to be there? I don't know. I'm just kind of curious if it's a possibility that like we're kind of assuming something that's not actually the truth.
I'm assuming that the plan will go correctly where the Mule is going to let the Galactic Council kind of take over because the Empire did what they did with Dawn, and then he goes and takes over Trantor. And Gale's whole plan was to have the Foundation then constrict and put a siege on Trantor while he's there. Why is it? Are you saying that we're assuming that, and we shouldn't be? Because that's how
So
I view it. Is that it's almost going to be Gale and the Foundation attacking them because that's what she laid out as the plan last episode.
So I think both sides of this plan, the plan that Kyle's thinking and the plan that I think Gail wants, are technically both happening on Trantor, but they're kind of different scenarios. Like now there's the possibility that the Mule took over Foundation and he has the Whisper ships and he is going to just be straight up attacking Trantor, and there's not even really that good of a chance for them to contain him anymore, when originally what Gail wanted was to have him feel like he had the power enough to go to Trantor, not even necessarily like full guns blazing, just go there and say, I'm taking over, because that's his plan anyway. And then she contains him. But now that he is doing something that's very anomaly like, taking these whisper ships, like this is not what she was expecting. He may be powerful enough to actually be like, I have Trantor. And it's just going to be now Gail and the Second Foundation attacking instead of trying to contain him. I mean, they're not going to be starving him out there, are they? Do you think at this moment, with him having all the whisper ships, that he's actually going to have a chance to be contained, where they're going to just starve him out and try to do it as peaceful as possible? Like, I mean, the other thing about this vision is the self-fulfilling prophecy part of it. Like, it doesn't seem like Demerzel is going to allow Gail to go ahead with her plan, or maybe she will now that she has seen enough of the vision, but she's still, no matter what, going to be putting Empire first. And Gail openly admits to her that her plan was for Empire to fall, so that the Mule thought he could go to Trantor and take over, and it would be Foundation that would pick up the scraps and end up being the powerhouse. So, I mean, we always know this. Demerzel's a wild card, and she's probably considered an anomaly herself. Maybe not just because she is kind of predictable in Harry's sense because of her directive, but I don't know. I mean, I think fully now the plan's different. It's going to end up being on Trantor no matter what, just because that's where he's going to go. But the plan's not going to happen the way Gail wants it to.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that confrontation happens, because originally the first time we saw it, the Mule says to Gail, "Oh, you're from the time of the Empire," which that's already broken. So every history has basically been rewritten already.
Like,
So
Sal's
yeah,
gone.
Sal's gone. Like the whole thing is a little bit different. It's
Maybe
still there, but
that's actually cool. Maybe that's why they don't show Sal laying there on the ground in this scenario, because she can't be
yeah,
laying there.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah, because you
Maybe
can
it's
actually
Big Fritz.
change fate, which is like a big thing about that the Mule's been talking about. At least a couple episodes ago, he was talking about that. But anyway, let's take it home on this conversation, which, shout out to the thing that we knew was going to happen. Didn't really have a payoff of when she actually pulls the prime rating out, does the little flourish, whatever. We didn't get to see both of them in the same spot, like me and Kyle discussed. Maybe Gail doesn't actually have it on her and it's at Ignis, so that could be a thing. But either way, the only thing that happens after their conversation with what the black hole was, or the fact that Demerzel saw the black hole and something that Gail never would have been able to perceive, is like just in parallel with what goes on New Terminus. Demerzel is just made aware that the Mule has taken over New Terminus, and just what we said, has all the whisper ships. And how do we know that? How does she have the ability to feel that? Was it just because of is she just taking in communications because she's a robot? Like, is she?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't
so.
understand that. Okay.
She said, I'm going to butcher exactly what she said, but in my mind, it's something along the lines of like mass communication. Like something was being spread out along the technology, being alerted, and she read it. So she gave you the total, I told you so, let the gate close. She's walking out the door. She doesn't, I don't know what we're going to do, but they're obviously going to have to communicate next. But this black hole bomb scenario is very interesting, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen next with Day and Dawn. I was very intrigued by the fact that Demerzel literally said, I know where Day went. He won't bother us anymore. We won't be seeing him again. And she's not like chasing him down to kill him or anything. She's just going to let him live. Is that compassion, or is that just her knowing in her logic that he really won't come back and it is no big deal? But are they going to really decant another Day? Are they going to decant another Dawn? Are we going to get another 3? Or is Dusk really going to be the only one left here on Trantor at the moment?
Well, off that, we didn't have the conversation too. It's probably not even worth talking about. We're all on team like Dawn is dead now, right? After she confirmed it there.
They're pretty good about just like letting these Cleons die.
Yeah. Me and Kyle were thinking that there was a chance. I think Kyle ended on 50-50, but it ended up being, it sounds like he's dead.
Let me ask you this question. When the door opened and Darth Vader was about to walk in, did you guys guess it was Demerzel as you were watching? I didn't get to listen to the podcast. Like, who did you think was walking in when they said unknown person?
Kind of happened so quick. I just
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
knew it
truth be
wasn't.
told, probably the Mule in the moment.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I had talked about
Okay.
on the podcast of like, the Senate like alarms were flashing and it felt like the Mule was going to actually pop up like on
Yeah.
Clarion and not, just off Calgon. It felt like that was going to be what had happened.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and she confirms the nanites are offline. I mean, we know
That's
what they
enough
kind of did.
confirmation that I need, to be honest.
Yeah, they obviously showed us recently, very recently, that can happen while a Cleon lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but sometimes, I mean, it's honestly like kind of an unfortunate mechanic that they can just decant a new one. Like it just kind of takes,
Yeah.
and he's just like the same person. I don't know. It kind of, I'm still over after 2.5 seasons, 6-0 on the fence kind of about that stuff.
And there's a lot of things you have to think about for just that. I mean, Demerzel freaks out at Gail, and you said it. She was stone cold. She said, like, I need to know how you turned Dawn. I need to know exactly how you did it, why you did it. We didn't actually really get all of that. Maybe it was a little bit of an off-screen conversation, but it makes sense why Demerzel needs to know, because you can't really decant Dawn at any point while he's turned. I mean, he has exact memories from the prior Dawn. If you decant a Dawn who's loyal to Gale, what's the point? You need to find maybe in his memories when you can decant a version of Dawn that she can actually work with.
It seems likely, honestly, the one that died as he died, that version was anti-Gale. She lied to him.
So
He
I
knew he
guess
betrayed her.
he can transmit at that moment and then be that version of Dawn. But is that a good version of Dawn for Demerzel?
I don't think we know the specifics of how accurate and recent the memory transfer actually is. And they kind of hinted at it. It keeps getting worse as they make more clones and they keep drifting farther and farther away. So maybe there's differences that Demerzel would want to avoid. I don't know what they're really going to do. It seems like I think the dynasty, the Cleonic dynasty ends this season. Like, I don't think there's going to be more, but who knows? But let's talk about Trantor, the 1 to 2 scenes that we get of Day, picking up where we left off. I will gas this up every time. I love how the Undercity looks. I just love the look of everything that we're doing here. And it was just a cool moment for Day to walk around. He got to see the people, he got to see the different shops and just the city life, which is cool for his character because that kind of fits. But it was really just a avenue to get him to finally meet Song again. And she remembers nothing like we expected.
Right.
And this goes pretty much as poorly as it possibly could have, to the point where Day's like, damn, I should have just never went this route. But yeah, I mean, let's just talk about it all. It's pretty one scene based right here.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it goes, but he seems to be captured by Song's life mate, is what she calls her. And she seems to be a cop or something. They like tase him and everything, but he's definitely going to be under their control. So I think my thought is that the only way out he has is to use the relic from Demerzel to like kind of have an in with the inheritance group.
He even whipped out the "you saw a robot" card and she didn't buy it, man. Which is like saying you saw God and she still didn't want her memories. So I'm not going to lie, I wasn't really expecting that. I thought that he was going to go see Song and it was going to be sunshine and roses, and then shit was going to hit the fan after she got her memories back. But that was a nice little twist to have her be like, I know I didn't love you because I have a life mate. And here she is, and she's gonna whoop your ass right now.
Very Winona and Officer. What's
Officer
can't remember
Hawk.
her name. Yeah, Officer Hawk.
It was
sorry, not
interesting.
Winona. My bad.
Waverly.
What's her name? Waverly and Hawk. Yes.
It's interesting that they've chosen this route for Day because, I mean, if you would have told me at the end of like season 1, then we'd get a storyline of Day falling in love and then being rejected. It just goes against everything almost that Empire stands for. This has been, I think it's easy to say at this point, like by far the best Day that we've had. They've all been interesting in their own rights, but this one is just, his story is just far and away, to me at least, the most interesting. And It's so crazy to think of. We talked about it last episode, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, of like, what is actually the story here? He is kind of he was trying to recover a lost lover. That love has been completely unrequited, however you say the word, if it's even the right word. And it's just kind of like, what is kind of the outcome here? And I'm still not swayed away from this idea that, like, he's not technically gone off of Trantor. He's still a symbol of Empire that's on Trantor. And if the Mule takes Trantor, like, he has this ability to kind of lead reluctantly. It would go against everything we've seen from his character so far, but that would be kind of the development of him, of like reluctantly taking on this like leadership position, and especially potentially it being with like an army of religious robot zealots behind him, of like recapturing the planet of Trantor.
I got it. 5 minutes after the end of that scene of the vision when Gale's getting choked out by the Mule, you just see Day out of the corner of your eye roll up on a horse, and he's like, "Rally the troops!" And he's got all these robots behind him, and they come and save the day on
All
Trantor.
these robots.
He's gonna have a
He's
robot
got like
army.
a bunch of ferrets, dude.
Yeah.
All the ferrets just go start
Yeah,
biting ankles.
He'll be riding the giraffe that he mentioned earlier. It's gonna be awesome. And that's just 5 minutes after the vision, but Gale wouldn't have seen that yet. So that could be how it plays out.
Let me just say, too, I didn't get a chance to say this, obviously, because I wasn't on the last 2 episodes, but we were joking a little bit how this version of Day, this Lee Pace, is a little less, handsome. Not handsome, because he's always handsome, but, he's not as shredded. He's got the beard. He's a little straggly. They just give us Cleon the First taking the vision of Day, and he's just like, hey, man, I'm handsome as shit. I shaved. I'm putting my hair back slicked. He's like, I just want to let you guys know, as Lee Pace, that I'm still the freaking man. I can still do it, but they just asked me to be a little straggly for this season.
Somebody didn't
Denzel
listen to the podcast episodes.
Is that what you're talking about? I didn't. I told you I didn't have a chance. So
we can tell.
Wow, dude. Wow.
I'll be blaming you. But I love the outfit too that they have him in. He looks so good in like the market with like the knit cap and the sunglasses. Like, he's just everything about this Day rocks.
I mean, all of our predictions at the end of the last podcast, Carl, I still think are on the board. He can either help to raise that rebellion that we just kind of talked about jokingly, but also in a serious manner. If he does win them over, it's got to be a slow burn, because it feels like that story has progressed almost to the point where it's time for him. Like, there's only we have 4 more left. And if he's gonna die, it's way too early for that, right? Like, so they're gonna have to slow burn it to the point of some payoff for him. And I just love the idea of his internal insurrection that's going to be on the side of Foundation against the Mule if he comes and takes over Trantor. That to me feels like the most organic path forward for him. And you can just sprinkle in all the robot lore that we're going to probably learn once he wins them all over.
Yeah, and if you're gonna make a Day be the final day for the rest of this show, this is the one.
Yeah.
He's mortal. He got rid of his nanites. He's mortal. He's the freaking man. Like, this is the perfect version of a Day to have be someone that you're going to move forward with and have us worry at all times that they're going to kill him off. Like, I don't know if they'll ever decant another Day or if this is really the last day. But what I do know is if this show goes 8 seasons, it better have 8 seasons or 7 or something of Lee Pace, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those scenarios where don't kill Lee Pace too early and let the show die. And I'm not saying he's the only thing keeping the show alive, but he's just so iconic with this show.
Yep. Good to move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There's only one scene that we need to talk about before we jump into New Terminus, and maybe we'll just naturally talk about all this stuff. But it's really just, I want to shout this out, is the cold opening of the Mule waking up from his visions in a cold sweat. You said it, Jimmy, like, his acting is good enough for me where I love it. I now think he's good enough. Every time he appears and gives a grand message, it's always amazing. It always holds the weight, and you can just see how much this means to him. And this is pretty much in every molecule of his body, is the idea that he just dreams about Gail over and over and over. And yeah, he said he's willing to burn the galaxy to the ground before he would let Gail get to him. And then we kind of move into his plan that plays out on New Terminus. Anything you guys want to put out there before we just move right along?
Nope. Hit it.
Cool. All right. So on New Terminus, this is going to be a fun storyline to talk about because I feel like this is the most new theory crafting material we're going to get for the time being. And this is how you kind of said it earlier. I think it was Kyle that said it. The third crisis might kind of be considered wrapped up. And that's all because of how it plays out with Inber and our new crew that just arrived from Haven, which is Maggie, Beta, Torin, and Randu. Also, just taking a moment real quick to shout out someone on the Discord. It was at Bunny. Put it out there that there's a chance that maybe Beta is a mentalic, which is why she was avoiding the Mule in the club and didn't want to get close and get read by him or anything like that. I love that idea. Don't know if it holds weight, but just keep that in the back of your head for the future. Maybe look out for signs. But anyway, they arrive on New Terminus. Well, I guess in Inber's floating satellite spaceship, and they use Pritchard's name to kind of have this conversation. They get thrown in jail and then eventually get brought back to Inber to have this conversation of like what's really going on. So let's just take this whole beginning piece before we actually go to the surface of New Terminus.
It seems pretty cut and dry that this was the solving of the third crisis.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we have Maggie actually playing for Inber and, you know, all of the higher ups, and the narration literally says, as Maggie played his way into leadership's heart, the eclipse began. For the first time, the competing factions within the Foundation were unified and understood how the Mule is powerful with the instrument, but vulnerable without it. And this is the key. Putting differences aside will help them solve the new crisis. That feels like explicit. I mean, maybe implicit. Right. And explicit confirmation that the third crisis is over.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Agreed. Me too.
Especially because they said there's going to be 8 of them, right? Or is that how many they said?
Yeah, and you have an anomaly like the Mules show up, and then you have Maggie just playing the tunes. Everyone's like, "Hey, we're good. We're done. Move on to number 4."
We laughed when we talked about this on the previous episode of like this could just like when Gail has the quote of Maggie's music will be the key to solving the third crisis. And we were like, how? And then we were like, I mean, I guess it could just be that he's so chill that everyone's like, God, why are we even fighting? You know, like this music slaps. And it's literally exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think Beta shines again. Every time she gets dialogue now, I'm locked in. Jimmy, I guess you haven't. The last time we talked to you, it was really before Beta had a chance to shine. Like, did you not love her Randu Haven scenes? And now I feel like she just owns every conversation. Torn had a good episode as well when he finally steps up here, but I still am Team Beta as like my favorite new character of the season, I think, besides the Mule, but he doesn't count.
I wish I could like Big Pritch more, but I'm really not digging Big Pritch as much, and it's a shame. I don't care that much about the relationship between Big Pritch and Gail. He looks great when they're stripping him down.
Full stop. He looks great. Yeah.
But I mean, I was hoping, you know, we talked about him being the parallel to Sal. It's not, he was the warden, but it's just not working out that way. I fully agree. Beta is a star. I do think Torn had a very, very good episode. I'm warming up to Torn as well. And, you know, I liked Randu too with the back and forth and everything. So I just think that this, while the Cleonic side of things is always the more interesting side, I think that they're doing very well on the new Foundation side of things. And I do like these new characters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Big Pritch is shredded, dude.
Oh, yeah. I like that they it was almost a reminder, maybe just to me, maybe other people had this in their mind the whole time, but of this idea that the Foundation and the Traitor Alliance feud kind of was a family feud almost between the Mallow family and the Inber family.
Yeah,
you know, we're obviously dropped into the middle of it, what ends up being the end of it. But I don't know. I just kind of liked that reminder. Although I will say when we get to the part where Harry's actually there, when we're in the vault, I really enjoyed the way that he just summarizes everything that happened in the super general terms, because again, psychohistory is about pattern recognition of all of these concepts colliding together. So both sides of that I liked.
And I mean, the only thing that's going to stop us from talking right about the vault scene is after the music playing scene, Inber summons Pritchard and they talk. and he just accuses him of being like a spy for somebody.
Yeah.
Doesn't really go anywhere besides the fact that he's not invited to go to the vault as the eclipse is happening and as everybody on New Terminus is going to go inside and see Harry.
This was, I think, maybe the first scene ever where it felt like kind of reasonable that this guy is the leader of Foundation. We know it's a hereditary position at this point, unfortunately, and a lot of this comes out of him using the people around him and their abilities and smarts. But this was the first time he felt even somewhat imposing, like capable. A leader. Yeah, all of that stuff, because they nailed it. Exactly. Obviously, they don't know where Big Pritch went, but, they used all that deductive reasoning to be like, okay, who are you working for?
Who's your master? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys ready to just do it? Because like this is going to take us through the rest of the episode. We're making decent time. I think Ember makes the call. All right, everybody on New Terminus is going to go into the vault. We see Ebling, the biographer, Doran Martell. They're all there. They're ready to go in. They start making their way through. And you said it, Kyle, he explains the whole story. Randu chimes in. Ember's being a weirdo, annoying, obnoxious guy, just having to get a say every 2 seconds. But I got chills kind of in the way that Harry reacted when they started talking about the mule, and you could just see it just going right over his head. He didn't understand. He wasn't computing. This was an outlier. It wasn't in the math. There's no way he ever would have known who the mule is. And it's just the timing of it. And then the spaceships start coming down, like the mule uses abilities to make the armies attack itself. It just became more and more epic. And then Harry's freaked out to the point where he just retreated back into the vault and turned the null field on again. I actually originally thought it was the mule being overpowered and knocking everybody out, but it makes sense that Harry almost panicked, thinking that maybe the Foundation wasn't where it needed to be, so he was going to go back into the safe haven of hiding and turn the defensive mechanism on, and actually kind of screwed everybody over because everybody starts getting knocked out and whatever. But Torn was able to resist it enough to get Beta to safety. Ember sandbagged, who was it, Ebling, or was it Ebling, when
Randu, everybody.
Yeah,
he basically
everybody
sandbagged
get
everybody.
away. It was a chaotic scene, but I do think that for the first time ever, we might actually directly lead into the mule having more than just cameos since episode 2 or 3 or whatever it's been. It's been a long time, because he just destroys Foundation 1, and it's fucking awesome. I loved this scene, and I loved how Harry reacted. It's the first time we really saw him on the back foot so badly, to the point where you feel like he was almost scared. I don't know. That's how I was feeling about the whole thing, but it was great. And I think that, it's going to start off with heat for episode 7.
I've been bought in for a while on the mule. I've said it. I said it in the intro, but this scene right here, where he's talking to Harry with no fear, he's talking down to Harry Seldon, who I don't really know if anybody has done that. Maybe Day would try to, but Harry would be able to talk back and hit him back. But the fact that Harry was, like you said, Luke, scared enough, and I think scared is the right word, to make himself disappear and to do it in front of all of his believers, everyone who looks at him like a god. The mule comes overhead, says, "Look up." Harry freaks out and disappears. And again, to use the word again, sandbags all of them. Puts the null field on when all of his believers are right there. All of the important people on New Foundation. It's crazy. And I don't know what is Harry scared of when it comes to the mule specifically? Like, if the mule went into the vault, I mean, can he do anything to Harry? I know he can't compulse him, but I mean, what would make Harry be so freaked out? Just the scenario of what's going down in general on New Foundation. He didn't calculate it. He wasn't expecting it. Or was he actually scared of the character, the mule, and he had to disappear, worrying that something could happen to the vault?
The only, honestly, explanation I could think of, and where he's not actually running away, is that the vault opens for the crises. They kind of showed him that they solved the crises. It would be interesting if it wasn't actually a voluntary decision by Harry, like the vault just closed up because literally the 3rd crisis ended.
Or maybe
but I feel like
the 4th
he
is start.
it.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Doesn't he control it though? Like, is it on? Is it on the Prime Radiance psychohistory A to B to C to D? Like, is it going on a timeline where, oh, here's third crisis, let's open up, or is it Harry? Like Harry said, they're actually making fun of Harry. Like, yo, I'm gonna open up this vault when the eclipse happens because I'm the freaking man. So
That's
I don't
true.
know. That's a good point. I would hope, just because we love Harry. I don't know if I'm going to say I would hope, because it is super interesting. Everybody drink. I think this is the first time we're drinking this episode. That something is scaring him to disappear. That is very interesting. But I would also, because we like Harry and we think he is a, big dog, that there's something else that made him disappear. Was he
And
going? Can he communicate outside the vault to somebody else? Like, I don't know.
you know who could explain all this in May next episode is biological Harry, who is alive and disappeared and teleported somewhere. I think it is a perfect moment for him to make a reappearance. Maybe he can be the one that gives us the lowdown on what he thinks the fourth crisis is, and then start talking about the mule, because he's biological. He will have been reacting to the idea that the mule is alive. Like, we know that he knows about the mule. So how he pairs that with his past digital self that is the vault, I don't know. Maybe there's some answers there that could be given. I really feel like he's been gone since episode 2, right?
Yes. Or
Yeah,
That's
one.
the
yeah,
one.
because I one or two, because I had one more episode. Yeah, after.
It wasn't, I don't think Gail was really in episode 1 until like the
Right, I
very
believe it's
last
two.
minute. And then episode 2 is her moment. And then we see Harry disappear with whatever we think that entity is into that portal. And I just think that there's no way that doesn't have payoff this season. So I think now's a good, maybe he was even on his way to Foundation 1. I don't really know, but he could be one that can explain it. Because otherwise, like, if next episode Harry just reopens the door, it feels weird to me that they made such a big moment of him closing it again, that I think somebody else besides Vault Harry has to explain what's really going on there.
To me, the fact that he disappears and then closes the vault and opens up the null field again, and he's so, like, no hesitation, he has to do it at this moment, even if his believers are inside the vault and it could kill them. I feel like he has to be scared for something that the mule could do to himself or the vault. I just don't really know exactly what it is, because we're talking about the soft science, the soft fantasy
Mhm.
here, where we don't really know the power of the vault. We don't know the power of Harry. To me, I don't know what the mule at all could do to projection Harry, because once you're in the vault, it's pretty much like he's the master. He controls everything. And he obviously is not a human to be compulsed. So I don't know. I mean, we'll get that answer, but I will say it's going to probably go down as a very iconic moment in this show to see Harry Seldon disappear at that moment and have the null field turn back on with all of his followers inside.
I could also see it being that Harry is like, this is some stuff that wasn't in the math. Everyone in this place right now is
I'll be back
annoying as
later.
hell. Like, I can't think in this type of situation. Like, I gotta kick these people out. I need some time and space to like actually consider what's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That would fit his personality.
Because
Well, he totally made the mule feel like he got a big dub, because he talks to Harry and he talks down to him and Harry disappears. The mule's probably like, yeah, baby.
yeah, I mean, I said it last episode how, although the mule had a huge win, like, it technically was according to the Foundation's plans. So there was going to have to be some point of the season. I didn't think it was going to be right away that the mule was going to get a legitimate win against the
Right.
Foundation's plan, and that's could be what this is. Because it's too easy just to, make it go according to plan when we're only halfway through season 3. And that's just how I feel about like a lot of things that are going on right now. Like, we technically are, like, this could have been Endgame's part of the season, but with 4 full episodes left, we have so much left. Like, this is the best season easily for me. I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like it's going to be tough for this season 3 not to be my favorite, just because of how much everything is coming and converging together. Like, it's just so good of what's going on here. And I think like they've done a great job of actually organically building up the mule from us seeing his first takeover of anything to becoming like an actual legitimate warlord power in the galaxy. And like, this is just another feather in his cap. He's just crushing it. And he's just taking win after win, that it now feels believable that he could challenge the Galactic Council and the Empire and win.
When you say that this stuff kind of happened quickly, this counterpunch, does it lend you any type of doubt to this idea that the Mule is a multi-season villain.
Oh, Kyle took the
A
words
little
right out of
bit,
my mouth.
a tiny bit, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I could literally 2 peas, bro. That was gonna be my counter. I was gonna ask the same exact question. And something else that I want to ask that's kind of in the same vein here is we have this vision that Gail has, and it's the throwdown with the mule on Trantor, and then she tries to push even further into the future, and we find out from Demerzel that it's the black hole. We don't know how far into the future she's trying to push. Is it possible that the vision that she is currently seeing, obviously it can change, we know that it can change, but the vision that she's currently seeing is one moment she is actually fighting the mule, the next moment she's in a black hole, meaning Dusk or somebody decides like Trantor's a lost cause, I'm gonna
Yeah,
unleash the beast.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that it could be, I don't want to say a red herring with this whole like the end of history thing in the Prime Radiant, but it could totally be that Gale can't see any further because she individually dies. Maybe,
Oh,
it's not that
that's
the galaxy ends, it's just that she dies, so she obviously can't have any visions further than that.
By
I don't know how much
by
I
she
believe that, but it seems technically possible.
like by she dying, you mean getting sucked up into the black hole, right? And
or
then you
just
can also
dying in general. But yeah, I mean Demerzel said it's a
Yeah.
black hole, but yes.
yeah. Because my also like, and the next thought I have is, what if Demerzel and Gale get sucked into the black hole with the Prime Radiance? You can kind of loop it all together. Like that could be another reason of why they can't see further into the future until they change things, which we already know that they can change the future. That like nothing is set, and that's going to be what the whole back half of the season into the future seasons are, I guess. But yeah, like I'm definitely a little worried that the Mule is not making out of the season. I'll be so upset if he doesn't at least get into season 4.
And I will say, for lack of a better term, like I'm feeling like the mule is a Thanos threat for Foundation, where if they finish him this season, like what other storyline are we going to have after a possible,
Right.
Trantor being destroyed, the Cleonic dynasty being destroyed, maybe a black hole bomb being released? Like what other huge storyline can you give us to say, oh wait, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons?
Yeah, they're gonna give us a
It
Kang and
seems
kill him off, and then they're gonna do Doom
yeah.
and shoehorn it all. Yeah, it's not gonna work out.
And they're gonna literally make the mule's actor come back as the new villain and be
Yeah.
like, "Hey."
Yeah, I mean that's a
That'd be
great point
fun.
too. I mean I have no idea what could possibly be. Truth be told, it seems like I'm in the minority here. I don't know how actually sold I even am yet on the mule himself. They
Oh,
give us
okay.
the
Interesting.
feats and things like that. I want more actual scenes with him
Yeah.
in them, versus like just like these feats almost, because like
Right.
even like with the Harry thing, like it's you could look at it as like, yes, like it's intimidating that he makes Harry run away, but I almost like thought the scene was funny that Harry just like winks out and just like abandons everyone, and they're all like, "Oh, what's going on?" So,
And
and that
I
could be, again, I have this predisposition to the actor and those things, but I don't know. I'm not fully there yet. Like wouldn't touch any type of list of like top villains in
Oh
TV
no.
for me.
no, yeah. I've bought in to his specific role in this show as
Hmm.
the mule, right? As in he is the Thanos threat. But I agree with you in the way where, like, I think Luke said it himself, like, we haven't really had any like major scenes recently where he can have actual in-person one-on-ones to show his
Yeah,
acting
we need
chops
that.
and how the mule is going to react. I mean, we're going to hope big time that the mule will have a very great scene with Gale when they finally meet, right? Hopefully he gets to talk to Demerzel in person, or maybe one of the Cleon, et cetera, whatever it is. But yes, through projections and through the technology, he is doing things, but he's not really like, we're not, sinking our teeth into major scenes with him yet. And I do
Yeah,
agree with that.
I guess I'm just satisfied with the character of the Mule and the lore that he's changing and his
Exactly.
effect on the
Yeah.
universe. I think that's hitting its mark to the point where he's been built up since the first scene, right? Like I think that's
Right.
landing. It's just I do agree though, like he needs to give us more actual screen time, which is why I might sour on his character as a whole if he's taken out in the next 3 episodes.
And again, I hate to do it for the 15th time, but like the Thanos threat, like maybe this is like 2.5 seasons of end credit scenes where you're showing us a little Thanos, and finally, if he finishes this season and goes into the next season, we will get, all right, he's the main villain. Let's throw him into a real life situation and see him actually be number 1, number 2, number 3 on the cast list instead of, just here and there showing us what he's doing throughout the galaxy.
That's the dream.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they've
that's
teased
the
some
dream.
things with him that we can bite into. This idea of like the fate stuff, and it feels like he has this kind of mystic almost element to him. The way that he's talking about the dreams in the start of this. Of where he's like, it felt like I was, living someone else's dream for years and years, and all of this stuff. And I think I want more of that than like he pops up on the telecoms and is like, like eyes, they sneak attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And one last question for you guys. We're talking about self-fulfilling prophecy with Trantor being the location in general. Is there any chance that you think that there's a possibility of the self-fulfilling prophecy of the Mule himself, meaning Gail sees a vision, she believes it to be true, and she obsesses over it for years and years and years and years, and then a character is born, and eventually she's obsessing over it so much as a mentalic that she's basically implanting herself into his mind and creating him? Do you think that's possible, or do you think that he was always going to be part of history, and she did see a real vision, and whether she obsessed with him or not, he just was going to exist?
I like that idea a lot, of the
The
self-fulfilling
reason why I
prophecy.
ask is because, yeah, the reason why I ask is because he's saying, like, I've been dreaming of this woman for years, and he keeps saying, I'm feeling like I'm in somebody else's dream. Well, we know that Gail, even when she's asleep in cryo, she's obsessing over him. So is she literally implanting herself into him and making him obsess over her back? I mean, that doesn't make him be the warlord who wants to take over the galaxy. I mean, I guess that is something he is going to be no matter what. But the obsession with Gale, maybe that was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I can see it being that, or even as indirectly as the acts that she's doing through the second foundation and trying to prepare for the Mule in some way has created the environment for him to become who he is. Maybe some type of proxy war or something that they backed on some planet, then created the conditions of like his childhood that makes him the way that he is, in some
Right.
almost way like that.
I think it would be awesome if they gave us maybe episode 8 as like a full backstory of the Mule, of how we got to
Right.
even the beginning of the season, because that would give him the acting ability, give him the backstory, add to the motivations, show some character development. It would do a lot for his character. And if they are truly going to kill him at the end of this season, which would suck, he needs almost like a full episode of just everything being him, or 90% of the scenes are
Right.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
we'll see though.
All right, guys. Anything else? I think we made some pretty
No.
damn good time, actually.
Yeah.
The one thing I actually just want to bring up, because it was talked a lot about in kind of the YouTube, it was mentioned, I think, in the YouTube comments, someone tweeted at us about it, and also some of the TikTok comments are just around this idea of people being shocked that Gale is willing to go to these lengths, willing to blow up an entire planet of people to kind of advance the Foundation's plan. And part of that too was people saying that it's so kind of isolating for her, like how many people are actually going to agree with that? How much did the Second Foundation know that she was, pursuing the explosion of Calgon of an entire planet? What is Big Pritch? Was this anything that they ever talked about? And it almost seemed like the way that they shot this episode, where they have her at the end when Demerzel leaves, and Demerzel's basically saying, like, you're only alive right now because I don't technically know what to do with you. And it kind of shows her, she's trying to call Pritch. She can't reach him, obviously. It kind of shows us this empty hallway that she kind of looks back on, and it feels like, I mean, this is the most alone probably she's ever felt. I just wonder how her character changes at all after any of this.
It's a good point.
Which we'll just have to see.
Yeah, that's a very good point. She's the mentor, or I'm sorry, mentee of Harry Seldon. And after his wife passes away, I mean, I feel like he lived that kind of life as well. I mean, if you're going to make these decisions, and we know the deal, there's a lot of debate on the greater good decisions that are made in storylines. But if you're going to be the one to make these decisions, you're going to be standing there by yourself a lot of the time, whether you keep it a secret or whether people don't agree. Those are two different things. But either way, you're going to be sitting alone. And yeah, I mean, she doesn't have Sal. She doesn't have Harry anymore, at least for now. She's not even able to talk to Dawn, who she was lying to anyway. So Big Pritch is, I don't know. He's going to be alive, obviously. I would hope for his sake, but he's in jail right now, so he's not answering her. And he's also in jail while the planet is under siege. So, she's definitely feeling very alone at this moment.
How about a full court shot blindfolded to end the episode of Gail seems to be really in this mindset of there's no boundaries in this battle against the mule. Everything is on the table. Is it she who triggers the black hole in a way to get rid of the mule? If anything is worth it to destroy him, that means
Right.
anything. I think that could be quite interesting as well.
And I don't think Gail's afraid to die. I mean, I think I mean, everybody probably at the last second, even if you are Harry Seldon or whatever, you're gonna feel that fear. But I think that logically throughout the 300 plus years that she's lived and her goals, I don't think she would hesitate that much to sacrifice herself if it was for the foundation and for Seldonism or whatever they called it, keeping mankind alive. But yeah, that's very interesting. And for that to work, she would have to have a conversation with Tusk. And I have a feeling that very soon she's going to be back in communications with Demerzel. Demerzel is now knowing that, Gail knows that Demerzel had she had conversations with Harry and she had a big part in psychohistory. So there's sympathy right there. The directive is the big problem, obviously, but there's that communication line. It's open now between the two of them. Demerzel's got the upper hand, obviously, but the communication line's open, and something's going to happen where Demerzel's going to realize, like, we're going to have to work together, I guess.
And the cherry on top before we play out, is this a way that Gail stays in the story, but then also is this part of the zygote stuff of like, does the zygote get quote unquote born, and Gail, before she does this whole sacrifice thing, uploads her consciousness and she becomes almost like the advisor to her granddaughter? That'd be pretty wild.
Lives in the
That's
vault with
interesting.
Harry.
Yeah.
So she'd be like a projection to the granddaughter. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm in.
To
I mean,
work
they
her
obviously showed
through
that
like the
again.
continuation, of the Seldon plan and foundation and psychohistory.
And I'm going to soft side the hell out of this for a second, but you know the deal. If there's any kind of thing with a black hole, you don't know actually what happens to you when you go inside of it. I don't know.
And we
I
do
don't need
know
to say
too that
anything else.
her mind can kind of handle it. The episode title, The Shape of
Yeah.
Time, she can bend it a little bit. I wonder if that also means something with what a black hole does and how it works. All right, that's the
Right.
end. I'm sorry.
That's the end, baby. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're out. I'm just kidding. All right, guys. If you like what you heard, please, please, please hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to give us a 5-star review, if you think we deserve it, we would really appreciate that. It helps us do and continue to do, what we love. And right now we are fully focusing on Foundation on the Core podcast. This is our love right now. We are focusing on this for the next 4 weeks. We're going to do some check-ins here and there coming up very soon. We're going to be looking into what's coming next. If you guys have any suggestions, hit us up on the Discord, the Spotify comments, YouTube comments, etc. Let us know what you want us to cover. We have the next Vince Gilligan show coming in the fall, but we will have a little bit of a lull that we definitely want to fill. So, guys, if you have any recommendations, let us know. We'll figure something out. We can't wait to continue this coverage of Foundation. If you're a fan of everything not Apple TV, we're covering a lot of things outside of Apple TV Plus on the Binge Empire podcast. We're covering Dexter Resurrection. We're covering MGM Plus's The Institute. We just finished up with The Sandman. We're starting with Wednesday season 2, part 1. We also have Alien Earth coming. Gen V's coming. There's a lot coming on that podcast. So jump over to the Binge Empire podcast if you're interested in any of those TV shows, and please hit that subscribe button. But otherwise, I am so happy to be back with the two of you guys. I know you guys killed it while I was gone, but it feels good to be back with my Cleons. Once again, we are the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus, and thank you so much for listening.